Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. The topic of this 10-minute moan is the reasoning behind why Rishi Sunak called an early election. And I found that quite surprising. And the details of this came up in an interview I done several weeks ago with Neil Hanvey, the Alba candidate and the Alba previous MP up until Parliament closed. And I asked him, was he surprised? How did it come about, etc. And he explained to me his feelings on what actually happened down in Westminster to lead to Rishi Sunak standing in the rain one evening telling us that we were heading for a general election. So just before you listen to what Neil's got to say, just to remind some folk who may not know as well that the 1922 committee that he refers to, that's the Tories parliamentary committee for all the MPs in Westminster, and that's who he talks about while he's explaining what actually happened that day. So hope you find this interesting. So how are you, Neil? Nice to see you again. And how's the campaign trail been for you the last few weeks?
It's been just a bit of a rush, really, because nobody seems to have been expecting the election at the time that it happened. It's been quite an extraordinary few weeks. So we're getting ourselves organised, getting the campaign planned, being out, meeting voters, delivering leaflets, designing letters and all that kind of stuff. So all the machinery of the campaign has been ongoing. So busy time.
Were you guys just like the rest of society expecting something to happen around about October, November? Is that what your thoughts were with the election?
Well, that was the expected, without question, the expected time, an autumn election, and that's from parliamentary sources, from people that I know in the Conservative Party. That was what everybody was expecting. And on the day that it was called, it was quite interesting. Stephen Flynn asked Rishi Sunak if he was feared and to call a general election, and later that afternoon he called one. I think nobody was more surprised than Stephen Flynn that happened. But I reached out to people I've done a lot of work over the last 4.5 years with in the Conservative Party to say, were you guys expecting this? And they had no clue, no idea. It was a shock to everybody.
So the nation started hearing wee whispers throughout the afternoon from memory, and then the announcement came at night in the pouring rain. Were you guys as ill-informed as we were at that point? Was it kept that tight?
Absolutely. I couldn't quite believe it. Because there was obviously within the party, we were having WhatsApp chats about what on earth is going on. Is this really happening? And I was still kind of bullish at thinking, there's no way. Not from my own perspective, I just thought from the Conservative Party's perspective, there's no way he's going to call an election now. So what? The inflation's come down, but nobody's felt it. Nobody will believe that that's a thing until the costs and prices and everything comes down. So it was extraordinary, an extraordinarily poorly judged decision.
And were you in Westminster at that day? Were you down in London?
I was back up in the constituency on the day. Kenny was down on that day, and we kind of do a tag team. So we're only there together if it's absolutely necessary for votes. And so I was up here, so I was a bit disconnected, to say the least. It was extraordinary.
Yeah. No, it was fascinating to get an insight into that, because when you're a member of the public and you see the day, unravelling the way it did, I wonder, how did nobody in the press, there was some of the people in the press that were saying, look, I've got great Tory sources, and nobody's seen this coming. They kept it really, really tight. Why do you think they done it?
Well, I can't really speculate. My reading of the situation is that there was an increasing number of letters going into the 1922 committee, casting doubt on the Prime Minister's performance. I think there were certain players in the Conservative Party who thought perhaps we would be better off with a new leader before any general election. I think they've been proven right, because the lack of judgment is just startling. But so I think that possibly Mr. Sunak decided, well, if you're going to stab me in the back, I'm just going to blow the party up. Because that's what he's done. Let's be absolutely honest. That is exactly what he's done to the Conservatives.
Yeah, I mean, there's comparisons a lot I see between the Tories in Westminster and the SNP up here, and that's my own personal opinions, that they can't read the room, a lot of the players seem more interested in them than the party even. And some people have this comment, they put the party before the country. I think it's worse than that. I see a lot of politicians in Hollywood that put themselves before the party, before the country, and it's in that order. So it's interesting that they're sort of similar. And then you'd want examples of politicians not reading the room. What he done as recently as at the D-Day celebration stroke remembrance. You think, are you absolutely bonkers? And I think where society is just now, I think there's a disconnect from politicians to the members of the public. And when you see things like this, I think it, to me, it just shows that that's correct, that these guys have got no, not all politicians, I don't, put everybody in the same box, or I wouldn't be here today, to be perfectly frank. But when you see that guy doing that and thinking nothing of it, and you go, you can't read the room.
No.
But having the amount of people behind them that these organisations have, PR, advisors and all that, how scary is that?
Well, I mean, I have a very simple kind of analysis of politics since I got involved. My background's in the NHS. I've had a real career, real life, and I think that really helps me do my job as a politician because I'm in tune with the struggles that people face all the time. But there's two principal types of people that I've come across in politics: people who want to do important things and people who just want to feel important. And there's people of that second category throughout politics. And I think that is a real problem. And it's not just the Conservatives, it's not just the SNP, it's rife across the political landscape. And of course, we kind of know already before a vote's been cast that the Labour Party are likely to be the largest party. And I would say they're as out of tune with the general public as anybody else, as any other political party. And so they will have absolutely nowhere to hide if they have a significant majority, because the challenges that they face are absolutely enormous, and the promises that they're making, they can't keep.
So there you go. The election was called because one man was looking to lose his job because the MPs, Tory MPs, were wanting to stand down. They were wanting a vote of no confidence in him, which would have led to him standing down. So instead of doing what everybody thought, and that was hold off until the autumn and potentially give, Tories a little bit of chance to regain their favoured positions with the electorate, where they might have been able to prove that the Rwanda was happening, they were stopping boats, maybe let the inflation have a knock-on effect to people's pockets, and then go for an election. He done it purely for selfish reasons. And it just disgusts me that that's how politicians actually work. This guy wasn't putting his party before the country. He was taking it a step further. He was putting himself before the country. But I don't think the colour of his rosette matters. I think what we can all take out of that is just what low depths these people all go to. And if the polls are true, and not only are they going to lose a lot of seats because people aren't happy with the way they've conducted themselves recently in Parliament as a government, when you factor in the resurgence of support for reform, where the majority of those votes will come from, I'd imagine, Conservative voters, they're going to take some doing. So I doubt that once this election's over, Rishi Sunak will be even the leader of the Tories. So he must have known that. He wouldn't have known about the reform, because that's obviously just driven by Farage joining the party, and that's obviously getting some Tory votes. But he must have known that they were going to lose by a big margin and put a lot of his colleagues out of job, basically. So to actually go and do it, I just think it's a great indicator in what politicians are really like. He looked as if he was going to get stood down by his own party, and then they would have put a new leader in, given them maybe a 6 month run at trying to look good and get trust with the public, and potentially hold some of the seats that they'll inevitably lose because it's been called so early. And they do that, it's just pretty horrific, to be honest with you. And I think that between that and the what he done in the D-Day remembrance service, I was actually a bit neutral about Sunak. I don't get that excited about prime ministers, particularly the Tory ones. So, but those two things, when you put them on the table now, it's not a very nice man. And quite glad he'll be going, to be honest with you. And that's from someone that doesn't give a toss about party politics, if I'm honest. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please consider subscribing. But most important of all, unless you're any of these crackpot, self-centred politicians that tend to populate Holyrood and Westminster, see everybody else. Have a great day. Cheery bye now.